Thank you. Welcome, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to our Advancing Housing Solutions Expo. We're here celebrating NeighborWorks Week, so it's a very special week for us. My name is Kelly Powell, and I have the honor and privilege to be the CEO at Community Partners of South Florida. And every day, I'm so proud of leading this work alongside an incredible team, which many of them are in the room, and creating our commitment of stronger, healthier communities where everyone has a fair shot, at stability, at opportunity, and mostly at home. Something everyone dreams of, and it's getting harder and harder every single day. So this event is part of a national movement. This week is dedicated to uplifting housing solutions, strengthening our communities, and celebrating the work that's being done across the nation. It's led by NeighborWorks America, a congressionally chartered nonprofit that supports a network of over 250 organizations just like us. Together, we're very proud to say that we are advancing housing solutions. Here in Palm Beach County, the dream of home ownership is growing further out of reach for our families. Families are working hard, but rising costs, generational barriers, and limited access to trusted resources are holding them back, especially in communities that have been historically left behind. So that's why today matters. We brought together a panel of amazing, beautiful experts, advocates, and local leaders to shine a light on this critical issue: heirs property and property inheritance, and how we can preserve assets that have been passed down through generations. So today's session is about empowerment. You're going to hear practical tools, legal insights, and community strategies that will help you help families, including your own, that we can preserve the assets that have been passed down through generations. We hope you leave inspired, informed, and ready to be part of the solution. So thank you for joining us, and before we start, I'd love to introduce the panel. So my order's a little different than what's on the screen, but I think you can figure out who's who by the pictures. So Blake Hanley, he is a staff attorney at Legal Aid of Palm Beach County. Blake specializes in housing and consumer law, focusing on heirs property and legal barriers that prevent families from preserving generational wealth. His work ensures residents understand their rights and can access the tools they need to protect their homes. Carlos Serranos, housing manager at Palm Beach County Housing Economic Development. Carlos leads the effort to expand affordable housing and economic opportunities across Palm Beach County. With a deep understanding of housing policy and local needs, Carlos brings valuable insight into current programs and long-term strategies to close the affordability gap. Leanne Robinson, Vice President of Bank United. Leanne is joining us as a seasoned banking professional dedicated to financial empowerment and economic inclusion. She works closely with the community partners to increase access to financial resources, home ownership education, and general wealth opportunities. And last but absolutely not least, Diane Lewis, Director of Operations at Feeding Hope Village. Diane serves as the Director of Operations at Feeding Hope Village, where she ensures residents receive consistent, compassionate support through safe housing, meals, and essential services. Her work centers on creating a stable, welcoming environment where individuals and families can begin to rebuild their lives with dignity and hope. So let's go ahead and get started. Are you all ready?
Yep.
Before we start, I just want to ensure that you know we've left time at the end for questions. So please start thinking as we're sharing about what questions you have, and this team will be here to answer them. Okay, so we are going to start with, let's see, Blake. So what are some of the most common legal issues you see around property inheritance in Palm Beach County?
The biggest issue is just lack of resources. One being in education, which obviously Community Partners has done an amazing job to get the word out about this issue. When I first learned about this issue about 2 years ago, I had never heard of it before. I had gone to law school. I had asked my dad, who's been an estate planning attorney for 40 years, never heard of the issue. So it's not known both in the legal community and outside of it even. And then once I got into it, just seeing the amount of these homes that lacked clear title and that it's known as dead capital and that it was just a problem specifically in communities of color and stemming back from the historical racism in our society, and seeing West Palm Beach, even you see records that show do not invest in certain areas, and that's how we got there. So that's the biggest legal issue, is really one, the lack of resources that were intentionally created, and then number two, the lack of legal resources now, but with Palm Beach County and community partners, we're hopefully bringing those resources to help folks clear title, gain generational wealth, and be able to do with the homes and protect the homes that they've grown up in.
Yeah, that's a really simple answer for a really difficult situation. And legal aid works very hard to ensure that they are with the resident every step of the way, so they understand, so they can ask questions. So it's really quite a process. And as Blake mentioned, it's been 2 years they've been doing this work, and I'm sure what he thought it was going to look like 2 years ago isn't what it looks like now.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Carlos, so how is the county addressing property inheritance, and how does it align with the overall housing strategy in Palm Beach County?
Thank you. As far as the county's overall housing strategy as it relates to home ownership, it's kind of two-pronged. We work to both increase the affordable housing stock, for sale housing, and we also work to preserve and support existing home ownership. How we work to increase affordable housing stock is primarily through funding programs, whether that be working with developers who are constructing, building new affordable for sale homes, or working directly with prospective home buyers to help them finance them to close the affordability gap on an affordable home purchase. As it relates to preservation, this is really where the heirs work fits into this and where inheritance ties in. Ensuring that legal ownership, but for existing homeowners, is secure, there's clear title. It works to retain neighborhood residents in existing neighborhoods and counter gentrification in those communities where the trend is towards, more upscale redevelopment that may displace existing neighborhood residents and over the long run, dramatically change the character of the community. It also, preserving, making sure that inheritance of properties, as was mentioned, generational wealth building, right? This is how the home is the single greatest asset that most families hold in their name. So it's essential that we ensure that that asset can be passed down to the next generation of family members, but not only for passing the wealth down, but the asset that a home represents also. That asset can be used to leverage other resources. It's collateral for borrowing, whether you want to borrow to start a business or expand some existing business you may have, whether you want to borrow to further educational goals and help pay for education. It's an asset, it's a resource, and if you don't have clear ownership, clear legally documented ownership to that, it's an asset that remains untapped to you. I was looking at some of the research around inheritance issue. I was really surprised, like Blake expressed, at some of the numbers I saw there. I've kind of heard anecdotally, that this exists in certain communities, particularly in lower income communities. But in the course of pulling some recent data, I'm just going to share a couple of facts. This is from a 2024 survey that was conducted for the Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta by the Harris Group, a polling firm. They found that 90% of homeowners that were surveyed expect the equity in their home to benefit their heirs when they die, right? That it's going to be passed down to their heirs, but that only 4 out of 10 homeowners actually have a will or a trust or an estate plan or some legal mechanism for that property to be passed along. Also, the survey found that 1 in 5 homeowners did not have clear title to their real estate. And another 1 in 5 as well did not know if they had a recorded deed to their property. Lastly, there's also an issue I don't think was mentioned yet as one of the common issues that come up with inheritance, but what also comes up is when a property is passed along to multiple heirs without the clear legal mechanism to pass title along like that, and you end up with tangled title. Mom dies, she intended to leave it to the 2 brothers and the sister, and it just, but there wasn't the documentation there, the mechanism to affect that properly, and now you've got tangled title. The survey said 38% of homeowners without a will or a trust that didn't have documentation in place intended to pass it on to multiple heirs. So, that's just creating the potential there for huge problems for those families. So the county recognizes the importance of addressing issues around inheritance of property as a component of the, our goal to preserve existing home ownership, particularly of affordable housing and in underserved communities where the stabilizing factor of home ownership is all the more important. So, thanks.
You brought up so many good points, and those statistics really make you think. So, we plan on making sure that our home is going to be passed down to our children, but only 1 in 4 have a will, and of those 1 in 4, then you have all these other issues. And the other part, which we're not even really addressing, is the emotional side of it. So when you get to a tangled title, that creates a lot of stress with the family. And it can become overwhelming for so many people in that situation, because now you have family feuds and no one wants to deal with it and things get worse. And so, yes, it really makes you think about the statistics and our intentions and our outcomes aren't aligned. So that's a really good thing to be able to, when we're talking to people and thinking about it, did we take the steps to make sure that that money ends up, that equity ends up with our families in years to come? Thank you, Carlos. So Leanne, I would love to hear a little bit about why is property inheritance such a critical component of building generational wealth, and how does the banking system view this asset?
So as a banker, your house is generally your biggest asset. And last year, 23% of first-time home buyers got a gift for down payment to buy their new house. Most of the people who received that money got it from another homeowner. So the generational wealth issue is perpetuated by home ownership. Home ownership breeds home ownership within families. If you lose title to that house, you lose the ability to sell it. You lose the ability to borrow against it. You lose the ability to get any federal funds in a disaster. You cannot get FEMA funds if your house is destroyed if you do not have clear title. I cannot give you a federal home loan bank grant for disaster relief if you can't prove to me you own the house. And just to quantify what Carlos was saying about what this issue is, according to the Federal Home Loan Bank, over 45,000 homes in Florida are impacted by this, and that is over $7 billion in real estate assets. As a banker, I can give you a 6% mortgage. If you're going to buy a car, it's 8 to 13%. If you're going to get a credit card, it's 13 to 20%. The delinquency rate on home loans is about 1%. The delinquency rate on auto loans is about 4%. The delinquency rate on credit cards is about 6%. As a banker, I would rather give you money secured by your house than anything else that you have. Your ability to provide education for your children, your ability to improve your house, your ability to pay debts, all of that, if you own a house, that's the cheapest way to borrow. But if that tangle is titled, you can't do it. Fractured ownership also leads you to possibilities of fraud. People claiming that they own the house and taking it away from you, filing liens against the house that you don't know. Who pays the taxes? The house gets sold at a tax sale. The risks to the family of losing that property with fractured title are much higher than families who have a clear line of ownership. So as a banker, this is a pretty critical issue to us. The other thing that was mentioned is gentrification of neighborhoods. We work in a town called Eatonville, Florida, which is, if not the first, one of the first incorporated black cities in America. They have been victims of predators. They have been victims of people coming to take their houses. A lot of the homes are older homes. Because there are so many generational problems, they can't get money to repair their homes. So we're taking some steps to make sure that gets cleared up. So what was that group we were talking about earlier, the legal group that helps people with title?
Oh, the public interest, heirs property attorneys.
So in the state of Florida, there's a public interest heirs property attorney group that covers about 58 counties. Through them, Stewart Title has offered free title searches because that's one of the hardest things to do is find out who owns the house. Mm-hmm. The title searches will help you with that. And this legal group, the first step going to your legal aid team is how to help solve this problem.
Yeah, that's a lot. And as you're talking, and especially all three of you at this point, there's a lot of terminology that can be really overwhelming for a family. And what I love is the team up here, obviously, is that support team that's going to help explain and define and walk you through the process. But Community Partners of South Florida, I'm so proud of the work we do around HUD certified counseling, home buyers, and obviously heirs property, because the important thing is understanding. And who in here hasn't bought a car and not quite sure what they're signing, or bought a house and not quite sure what you're signing? The most important thing we can do is provide the education so people are empowered to make the best decision for their family. So it is great that there's attorneys that can help. People don't think to reach out for that. So it's great information.
It's intimidating.
It's very intimidating. Even if you own a home and you're thinking about taking a loan out on your home, that can be intimidating as well.
And while we're paying attention to, in a lot of our counseling, to seniors in our population, what we're missing, I think, is the middle-age group who are living in the house from their grandmother or their mother, and how to reach them. So we're struggling with how to do that to make sure that people in their 30s and 40s understand how to prevent it by going to their legal team, getting that estate planning, making sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. Two of me. Okay. Thank you, Leanne. So, Diane, it would be wonderful if you can share your personal experience with property inheritance. What worked? What challenges did you have? And what do you wish you had known earlier so you could have made better decisions?
Well, thank you for that. I want to share something with you. My husband and I, we've been married for 47 years. Between the two of us, we're like 142 years old. Okay, all right. And we got a phone call from a young lady that's sitting in the audience and said, Miss Diane, do you have your legal papers in order? And I was embarrassed because I did not. And she said, well, we have a program just for you. And she began to share that program. Out of that program, check this out, we have finalized our last will and testament. Matt, that's the attorney sitting right there saying, hi, Miss Matt. We have done a power of attorney. We have a living will with Diane instructions. We have a designated health care surrogate, because you don't want the hospital to do that for you. And guess what? We even completed our Lady Bird deed. Signed, sealed, and delivered. So that's awesome. So what has worked for us is that we got ahead of the process. Now we've had a discussion with our children, and everybody knows everything. There's no more, if there's an emergency that happens to us, guess what? Everything is in place. The crisis will come, death will come. That's part of it. And talking to your children and family is not as scary as I thought it was. In our generation, for the baby boomers, we say, if we get a will, what? We gonna die. We gonna die. Somebody's gonna get the property. I'm not doing a will. So we scrabble something on a piece of paper and put it in the Bible, and when we die, guess what? The attorney is sitting right there. We take it to her and say, can you figure this out? And she's like, oh my God. So the challenges that we face for this was lack of early education. I was not educated about this. I'm from low country, South Carolina, and we sharecropped. My parents didn't educate me about this, so I grew up not knowing about inheritance. Family disagreements. No one's going to agree on everything. These are some of the challenges that you have. Legal terminology, but that lady right there, the attorney, Ms. Mousy, hi. She made sure I understood everything. Blake made sure we understood every step, everything that we didn't comprehend, that was, we call legal jargon, that they explained it to us. More than once, right, Blake? More than once, right? But I got it. And then the challenge was cost. Most people that I talked to said, I don't have $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for this. Guess what we got this for? Zero. This program has put my husband and I and 20 other people in, it has helped us not to be worried about our family and our children and our properties when we die. Fear of losing control, and that's something senior citizens said, we don't want to lose control. So doing these document presentation and talking about with our family, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, now he's got a power of attorney on me. What is he going to do with that? So we don't want to lose control. So that's a challenge for us. Getting through those barriers, talking about that with their children, just letting them know that, hey, I'm afraid that if I do all of this, guess what? You may take the stuff from me and put me in a nursing facility. So losing control was a challenge. What I wish I knew earlier is how powerful early planning was. I should have done this in our 40. We've been married for 47 years. We should have done this earlier. But thank God there's a program out there to do it. What I wish I knew earlier, the silence and assumption can destroy a family. Mm-hmm. Silence and assumption can destroy a family. You have to talk to your children. You have to, and relatives, about your wishes. And you need to be openly. That made us do that. And guess what? It wasn't as hard as we expected. What I wish I knew earlier, that there were free and low-cost resources. And trust me, I'm getting the word out. We're planning our second cohort class, okay. I'm getting the word out because this program is awesome. And what I wish I had known earlier is that property is power. Keeping land in the family can change a generation, but only if we protect it legally. How has the secured the property for our family? Okay, securing the property for my family has been given us a strong sense of security and peace. My husband and I, we're like walking around the house floating in the air, and our son knows where everything, everybody knows where, so we don't care anymore. Let the truck hit us, we don't care. I'm just kidding. But we don't, it's given us a sense of peace. It's given us a sense of peace. And I know that our home is protected, and our family will stay in our family. It'll stay in our family. That's it.
So important. And thank you, Ms. Diane, for sharing that, because there's another piece to this. There are so many blended families. I will share my personal experience. My husband and I have 2 daughters, one from each person, and I moved into my husband's home, which is now our home, and I worried about my daughter, and I worried about her security. Would she have a piece of equity from our estate? So back during the pandemic, I had an opportunity to listen to a presentation by Chioma Deere from Deere Law, and we went ahead and went through that process, not knowing there were free resources, but I'm still very happy. But you know what's really interesting, and I'm wondering if you had this experience as well, Miss Diane. I learned so much about my husband that I wouldn't have known, and I'm going to let a secret out. He asked to have LL Cool J do his celebration of life. You should have seen Miss Chioma looking at him like, what? And so, no lie, it is in our trust that we are going to invite LL Cool J to do his celebration of life. So what's nice about it is, for us, it even brought us closer as a couple. And I felt good being in a blended family that both children would have it all spelled out for them. So when the time comes, there are, as you said, it is a tough time. It is crisis for people. We want to reduce that crisis as much as possible. So it is so important not just to do it, but have the conversations with your children. I remind my children every time where the binder is. They have the attorney's name, and my daughter is like, Mom, stop already. I know, But it's like, I just want to make sure they're secured. And so it's such a peaceful parenting space to know that you can give this to your children. So wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so next, Carlos. So talk to us a little bit. Any local programs, funding, or technical assistance available for residents navigating property inheritance or trying to get a clear title? And maybe, if you don't mind, before you start with all your good stuff, maybe even share what a clear title means.
Sure. Well, I should probably defer to the attorney on the definition of clear title. But layman speaking here, clear title refers to documented legal ownership of real estate that is without problems, without issues. Want to clarify?
No, I think it's perfect.
All right, good
Tag
enough,
team.
I guess. Yeah, so thank you for the question. Basically, what I hear the question is, okay, so what are you guys doing about it? Carlos, you said the county recognizes that, inheritance issues are an important thing, and it's, a component, addressing them as a component of the overall housing strategy. So what are you guys doing? So what we've done was the department which I work for, Department of Housing and Economic Development, applied for and received a grant from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta through their AIRS program. The grant was for $500,000, and then the Board of County Commissioners appropriated another $500,000 of county taxpayer dollars to go with it. So we have a $1 million pot of money for our AIRS program. And we have partnered with the Legal Aid Society and community partners to implement that program. So what that program is going to do and what those dollars are going to pay for specifically are free services, free of charge, to eligible homeowners to help out with these inheritance issues. So the services that are going to be provided kind of fall into three categories. So there's going to be services to create estate plans, wills, deeds, other security instruments that will, ensure and demonstrate that you have clear title to your real estate. This is going to help ensure that, upon the property owner's demise, that real estate is fully and legally transferred as intended to the heir or heirs. We're also, through this, providing services to homeowners to help provide advice and guidance to how to avoid probate delays and other expenses when heirs' property is being passed along. And lastly, there'll be services to help clear up clouded title or tangled title, or ownership that has problems. So who's eligible for this, right? And I said eligible homeowners, right? So first of all, this is strictly for homeowners. This isn't to help folks who may have a commercial property or small property that they rent out. This is for homeowners. There are certain locations throughout the county let me back up, with the Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta money. They said, there's certain census tracts they identified throughout the county in which you can provide these services for free. They are basically lower income census tracts throughout the county, low, moderate, middle income census tracts. Out of the 373 tracts in the county, 234 are eligible. So it is the majority of the county. So if you're thinking lower income area, more than likely, homeowners within that area are going to be eligible for these free services that we're funding through Legal Aid Society. We do have an interactive map online up on our website, the Department of Housing and Economic Development's website. If you want to check whether a particular property or a particular neighborhood is in one of these eligible areas, we can share that information and distribute it after the meeting. And as far as the application process for applying for these services, this assistance, you're going to work through Legal Aid Society, who are our partners in it, and we're funding with these dollars to deliver the services. I know Takesha has been pointed at, but not mentioned by name yet, so I want to give a shout out to the illustrious Takesha Miles, who
Your name now, right?
is working with us on this and leading the effort on Legal Aid's behalf, along with Blake here. So we're really happy to be working with them. We're really happy that we could get this money from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta and from our Board of County Commissioners to be able to fund these services. This isn't something that we've been able to do before. But we see the need there, and we're really happy that we're going to be able to play a role in making some services available to help out. So,
Yeah, and I just want to take a moment and commend the county for putting time, effort, and getting the resources to support this. So thank you very much. That is really great. Okay, so next, Blake. I have a million questions for you, but I'm sticking to script. But after the script, they're coming. So how can residents check if their property has a clean title or if there are liens or encumbrances?
Well, like Carlos just mentioned, one of the best ways I'd recommend is to come to us. If you're eligible for our program, we'll do a title search. We have an attorney, Michelle Lewis, who we often use for free title searches. We have Stuart Title that will do free title searches. That's the best way. I've even tried to do title searches myself. I can't find everything that these folks can find. But if you were to do it on your own, you would go to official records at palmbeachcounty.com. You can type in your name, you can type in parcel identification number, your address, and see what comes up. You typically will see your mortgage, you'll see the deed, you'll see if there are any liens and encumbrances on the property as well. On the property appraiser's site, you can type in your address, you'll see the list, the history of all the deeds filed on your property, usually for the last 40 years or so, if you want to see just chain of title. But I would recommend having a title search done by an attorney. It would be the best option, which we can provide. And also, we have an online errors intake. Even if you wanted to open up your phones now, you could apply now at legalaidpbc.com or .org/errors intake.
Excellent, and we can definitely share that
Yeah.
afterwards. Another way to get in touch with Legal Aid, if you didn't jot all that down, you can always give Community Partners of South Florida a call. We actually, like I said, we have a team that's really that boots on the ground, helping the residents connect to the services, help them manage and navigate the county system, help them navigate Legal Aid and get them connected. For us at Community Partners of South Florida, what's so important is that warm handoff, making sure everything's about trust. Y'all know that in this room, everything's about trust. And oftentimes we'll get people who made a phone call, but they didn't hear back yet. So they're like, oh, they didn't call me back. That just means they hadn't gotten to you possibly. But, people become a little bit wary when they start feeling like they're not getting what they need when they need it. So our goal is to make sure that we connect you all to the residents and vice versa the best we can do. Because so often I think people can get tripped up on the steps and not complete the process. And we were all talking earlier, this is a very long process. It's not going to happen in a week or two, correct?
Yeah, I typically tell people that probate, if it's going to be probate, it's going to last between 6 months to a year. It can be sooner than that, but I'd say that the average case is about 6 months or so.
Yeah. So it's an investment of time and commitment. So thank you, Blake. So Leanne, I know you have some exciting news too. So could you share some of the innovative products that Bank United has put in place to assist heirs seeking to retain their property?
Absolutely. So the process is generally that first you talk to your attorney, you open a case, you identify who all the owners are. Somebody has to decide what to do with that house. Who's going to own it in the end? And by virtue of these being heirs' properties, a lot of them are older homes in need of repair. We had a situation where a woman was living in the house she was born into that her mom had that she thought was passed down to her. She had a brother who had left. He'd been in jail. He wasn't around. He comes knocking on her door and says, "Hey, property values are up. I want half." He hadn't paid a penny toward the taxes. He hadn't paid a penny toward the maintenance. But he wanted half the value of the market value of the house. We were able to get her a pro bono attorney to help take the situation to court in front of a judge and give her credit for the 20 years she had been paying and maintaining the house, so that what he got in the end was a fairer share than half of today's market value. Okay, how's she going to pay for that? She didn't have the money. So in talking to community partners and some of our heirs property team, we identified that we needed to make some flexibilities in our mortgage products specifically related to heirs property owners, including buying out other family members, including adding money for rehab, including adding money for paying the title work that might have been done or any other legal services that had been done. So we've expanded our mortgage product that we've offered to community partners to take care of all of this. The process is you have to go through the legal team to get the heirs solution. You have to go through the housing counseling team at Community Partners to make sure that you're mortgage ready, and go to Community Partners for a loan, and then we will buy it from them. We will allow non-occupant co-borrowers. So if there's multiple people that are wanting to take title but one's going to live there, that's fine. We don't normally do investment properties, but in this case, if you want to keep it and rent it out because that's what your family decided, we probably allow that too. So we are looking to be as expansive as possible to make sure that these homes stay in the families. It's important in our community. Again, we talk about generational wealth and not gentrifying areas and not having people be victimized by predators. This is something that's very important to us. So pretty much anything that the Community Partners teams brings to us, if it makes sense, we're going to do it. We're also going to be reaching out to another lender in the NeighborWorks network to talk about loans that we can't do because we're limited in our geography, what they might be able to help with. Freddie Mac, which is one of the national buyers of mortgages, is very big in this area, and they will allow exemptions for things that make sense for things that they want to support, and they're a big supporter of the heirs property program. So it's pretty much a wide open door for things that make sense.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I just want to commend Bank United. That is an incredible call to action right there. To be able to find the money to support the work, to ensure that the outcome does create generational wealth. So thank you. That's incredible. Okay, Diane, Miss Diana, tell us a little bit about how has securing your property for your family impacted your sense of security and financial outlook for the next generation and generations after that?
Community Partners and Legal Aid Society, we know that our home is protected. Point and blank. We've done all the paperwork, all the legal documents has been filed. Our children know where everything's at. In case of an emergency, we know that our home is protected and it will stay in the family. And we also know there will be no fighting and discussion about who gets what because it's all been spilled out, it's all been shared, and it's all in writing. It also gives our children a solid foundation to build on. Whether for living, renting, or building wealth, it's not just land, it's a legacy.
That's it, 100%. Absolutely. Thank you. So first of all, what incredible information, tons of information. And like I said, I have a ton of questions, but I'll wait. I'm going to open it up. I'd love to open it up to the group to see if you all have any questions. Any? Yep. Jamie's coming around with a microphone in case you have a question. You have the experts here, so definitely reach.
First, I want to say thank you. This is a great discussion. I recently ran into a unique situation. So I did my will. I kind of learned about this through community partners and the importance of I did the will and I did my trust. But my situation was that I don't have family. So I just have 2 children that are minors. And that became a problem when I was leaving everything to you and who can make decisions on my behalf. So as the will is written out, my 17-year-old, I'm just praying to God I don't die before my 17-year-old turns 18 because I had to name a family friend, which probably wouldn't even been my first choice, but I was in a weird situation. It was recommended even to consider emancipating him just because we have a family business involved and things like that. But what advice for people that really don't have family members?
I would say choose someone that you trust the most. I guess in that situation, that's the best you can do. Who can be a trustee and be a guardian of your children in that situation. There's not really, I can't really think of any other answer
There's never an
here.
exception for like a 17-year-old? They won't make an exception?
Well, the problem is, especially when it comes to real property, to a home, that a minor can't own real property. So they'd have to have a guardian appointed in that instance that would oversee that property until they reach the, 18. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a difficult situation. Hopefully he'll turn 18 quickly. We're all praying. Yes.
I have a question. Is there an age limit to qualify for these services?
No. It's based on where the property is in the census tract.
Thank you.
Mike isn't working, so Cherie had her hand up. I was just gonna ask, is there an income limit for the services?
No, it's based on the sense where, as long as you are in the census tract that qualifies, that's it. The what? Oh, and we have some maps and we have some flyers too. That has the link where you can go do the intake online and you can see the census map there.
And one more question. So my parents are from the Caribbean, they don't tell me a lot of things about what's going on in our lives at all. But what they have told me is that they've taken care of all their documents and they've put me in charge of everything. I am the responsible one. I have 2 brothers. And my question is, my parents, they went through the bank, they did all the things that they needed to do, but how do I know for sure that everything is set? Is it, and if not, is there a way for them to get involved in this program, even if there's not necessarily a question about ownership right now?
I mean, you could ask them would be the number one, but if you could always, sometimes we get folks that already have their will if they want to revise it, or if they want, sometimes it's just like, hey, can you take a look at this and let us know what you think? We could do that if they would be up for it.
And that would fall under this program?
As long as they own a home within the census tract, that would qualify.
I know they said they've put everything in order, and you know, are asking you to accept the responsibility on behalf of your siblings to make sure, you know, their intent's carried out. You need a copy of those documents, of everything, all of those documents, whether it was a will, a trust, anything that they've set up, the power of attorney, what have you, you need that, a copy of that.
Yeah. I think if they think if they share it, they're gonna die. They've done it, but if they share it.
That's this generation.
I would say at the very least, let the, you know, ask them where it is so you can find it
Yes.
when you need it.
I want to say something on that. Our son, he didn't want a copy. He just wanted to know where it was. So we have a special file cabinet, and it's lock and key, and he knows exactly where it's at. So get a copy. I know where it's at.
So Mayor Lawson, thank you for being here, and Councilwoman, thank you so much. You had a question, sir?
Yes. Ms. Dan, thank you. The Harris Bank project, which you guys have Bank United, what are some of the requirements for actually taking that loan for that bank project with regards to credit scores, income restrictions,
So-
availability for loans?
Credit score is 640 or better, but we will make exceptions. Income, we're looking at 80% or less AMI.
Yes.
And primarily owner occupied. You have to have gone through the heirs property program title clearance. You have to go to community partners for counseling and their mortgage application. And again, we will lend money for rehab, so if the property's not in great shape, we'll include that in the loan.
And then some of the requirements for that credit score is the biggest concern. That's what we've seen within the community, especially within the Harris project.
Yes.
When you said that you'll make some exceptions to it, what credit score would you guys go down to?
We will accept people who have no institutional credit at all. We will accept people whose credit score is low because of an isolated incident. We will accept credit scores that are lower, but they've been paying comparable housing payment. It just has to make sense so that we're able to determine that this is a good deal for them.
You said it was 80%?
80% or less AMI.
And then the income requirements, is that the standard FHA approval, first time home buyer, 50%, that's income?
So normally we look at 43 or less. For this program, we will make an exception and go up to 49.
Okay. Thank you. That's
And
great.
it's a 30-year fixed, and we're usually a 0.25% less than the Fannie Mae 30-year. We'll do up to 105% combined financing, including any down payment assistance. We also, if the person is buying the house from others, we can consider that a purchase and provide them up to $20,000 of down payment assistance from Federal Home Loan Bank. Now, I do want to mention, we do this business in almost the whole state. Palm Beach County is the only county that I have heard of that has the kind of funding and commitment from local government for this. I have not heard of anywhere else that the local government is this supportive. So that's just an amazing thing.
It really is.
Yeah.
Howard?
Without getting too much in the weeds, if the heirs are clear, one heir or multiple agreement, without getting too much in the weeds, what is the process for cleaning up the title where the house was passed on without any documents? Exactly what do you do to clean up that title?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So I'll just go through kind of from the beginning. You have one homeowner, let's say, dies, they have 4 children. They didn't have a will. In that case, in order to clear title, you'll have to go through probate. Correct. And so typically what happens, one of those 4 children will apply to us. We'll go through the intake process with them. We need the will, the death certificate, if there is a will, funeral bill that's paid. Those are some of the typical court requirements early on. And we'll file their initial probate documents. They have to know the location of where their other siblings are, because all of them will have to be notified. So we either have to formally notify them by certified mail and then show proof to the court that they were on notice, or they'll sign consent and waiver forms saying, hey, I saw the petition that asked this property to go from my mom to my 4 siblings, and I'm okay with that. And basically they sign that form. You have to also notice creditors, so if the person's died within 2 years, you have to publish a notice to creditors in the newspaper at least twice, show proof of that. Any sort of debts that have come in the mail, credit card expenses, all of those have to be formally notified before the court will issue the final order, which basically is this court order that says title to this estate now is in these people here. That gets recorded in the official records of Palm Beach County and basically serves much like a deed would to show this is the official document showing who has title to this
The
property.
probate court has the authority to clear up the titles.
Correct.
Yep, my second question is more, I guess, perhaps to CP, but others. In a situation where there are multiple heirs and they are not in agreement, are there any mediation services or other kinds of services like that as part of this process that's available to try to get around those issues?
We will try to mediate to the best that we can, but given that, I don't think anyone really wants to talk to a lawyer necessarily. At the first, we have a problem. Yeah, no.
I'm just wondering if there are other mediation services available, family counseling or whatever, that would help to resolve those issues.
I have heard of it in discussions with other heirs property attorneys around the country. I've heard those services are available. To my knowledge, I don't know anyone here. Do you know anyone, Takesha?
Agricultural areas that have farm programs have a lot of those kind of probably mediation.
Especially when there's heirs on some of those farmland, you have 20, 50 heirs, and so they really need someone to be that person that can rally everyone together.
Thank you. Ricky?
Yes, for a homeowner whose primary residence is their only asset, is it best that they do a ladybird deed or a trust? What are the pros and cons of doing?
It's a matter of control, I would say, is the number one issue. In a trust, you can have control of that property and what happens to that property after you die. But in a ladybird deed, you're just saying that you're noting who the remaindermen beneficiaries are, and once they get it, they can do what they wish. They can sell it or rent it, whatever they want. So in a trust, you're going to have a lot more control about how that house is managed. You can assign successor trustees, successor beneficiaries. So you have a lot more control into the future than you otherwise would on a ladybird deed. But the ladybird deed is much simpler and much more it's much cheaper to do. So it's just a matter of how much control you want and what you're willing to spend on it.
And I know Miss Diane and you have both now spoken about ladybird deed, and I'm not sure if everyone in the room is aware what that is. Blake, would you mind sharing a little bit? Thank you.
So a ladybird deed is a kind of deed where you're basically granting the property back to yourself for life. And during your lifetime, you have full ownership and control of that property. The deed is also known as enhanced life estate deed, and it's just enhanced in that you retain full ownership and control of it. You're not, if you go to sell the property, you're not at any sort of obligation to who you've listed as the beneficiaries. You can rent it, you can waste it, but it just, at your death, it says, upon death of life tenant, title shall pass to so-and-so and so-and-so. And so that's when the transfer happens. There's no transfer when you do that deed. It doesn't trigger a mortgage clause, that due on sale clause. It doesn't change your property taxes in any ways. It's just granting back to yourself. So there's no transfer. So that is a tool that we often use for home ownership. That's the simplest tool to transfer property after you die, and avoid probate most of all, because that's a whole different thing if you have to go through probate to get the title to the property.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody? Yes, in the back.
Some employers have a free legal service, like an employee benefit. Do you think those are good programs to use, or I think you're probably more an expert than him. Are you familiar with any of those free programs?
I'm not familiar with that. Are you familiar with
So
that?
it's like glance and glance, and so what they'll do is they'll provide you, if you have a legal situation, they'll do a demand letter for you. And then after that initial fee thing, then they'll do, they charge you the lower cost for the work.
He sounds more in depth though.
Thank you.
So remember, we're doing it for no cost to you, so it's best to do it with
our services are free. We have to say that over. Yeah.
But I wanted to say, my name is Linda Chapel, and thank you all for being here at the panel. I wanted to go back to what Commissioner Lawson said with the credit score. So part of the plug for community partners, counselors, or South Carolina counselors and members is even before we get to that point, we counsel you to get your credit score up. So we provide pre-purchase and post-purchase counseling. So in fact, our post-ownership, property inheritance, we are almost making it part of our post-ownership and post-purchase program because it's part of preservation of properties. So the promotion that we're doing for property inheritance right now, we are offering it at pre-purchase, and Liz already know that. Our housing manager is still there. She's there, so we're going to add that topic during our 8-hour pre-purchase class, and every step of the way is going to be embedded in our pre-purchase and post-purchase so people can start being aware, as Ms. Liz was saying, education, and that's very important. So before they even get to that point, the counseling and the credit building is going to happen to take advantage of what the Bank United is doing. And that's very important. And I know that I stepping out of the room. We're the only lender that's going to do this program with Bank United. So I want everybody to know that and to notice Anna Lopez, our lending manager here. So she's going to be the person to talk to. So again, this is part of our mission to the program, is to preserve and to manage gentrification with, and obviously without displacement. So thank you all for coming.
And I would say that as a result of the quality counseling that Community Partners does, Bank United has never had a delinquency with any of their loans. Ever.
That's incredible. Yes, I'd actually like to take a moment and for our housing team to please stand, because this is the team that makes it all happen. Anna, Odessa, Linda. They truly do work. And Miss Tara is working directly with the property inheritance. And so when I talk about that warm handoff, she's going to be the first person who is going to have a chance to talk to you, and she's going to connect you with the team to make sure you're getting what you need as quickly as possible. So thank you, incredible housing team. This whole week is all about them, so we're going to keep celebrating them all week. Any other questions? Yes, over here. What is the financial burden of the recipient of a property you receive?
So when the Lady Bird's executed, you don't have, it's called a contingent interest at that time, so you don't have any financial burden or expectation. You don't have any ownership in the property until that owner of that property dies. Once the owner dies and title is transferred to you, and it happens immediately and avoids probate like we discussed, then you can choose if you want to not have the property. You could quit claim your interest to someone if you want. You could sell the property. But the good news is that with a Lady Bird deed, you don't have to wait to go through probate. As soon as the property appraiser gets a death certificate of that original owner, they will transfer title to who's listed on that Lady Bird deed. And you'll have full title ownership. You'll be able to get title insurance to sell it. So you can do that very fast, and you have full control at that time.
So a little more information. The minute you take ownership, you're responsible for taxes. You're responsible for insurance. And if there's a mortgage on the property you don't pay, you don't stay. You don't get to keep it.
Right.
That part.
Right, good point.
Which I would like to just share, that is part about exactly what Ms. Diane's talking about. It's talking to your family. So if you're the recipient, you know what you're walking into. Do they have 29 years left on a refinanced house? And so that communication, as Ms. Diane's been speaking about, is critical. So even if you are the recipient, start having those conversations with your families. Ask them questions like, fill me in a little,
it's going to make it smoother for everyone.
Right, and the follow-up to that is we have so many families that become combative when things happen, but nobody wants to pay the taxes. Nobody
Right.
wants to pay. They want the property. They want, someone left it to me. Okay, now, so it's like $3,600 worth of taxes gonna have to be paid and all of this other stuff. And they're like, I don't want any parts of that though. So that, you know, it's a lot of those issues that happen in our community. I don't know about everybody else's community, but in our community, it happens a lot, so.
And if you don't pay those taxes, the house can be sold at tax deed sale and taken away from you, so you don't get that choice anymore. Also, if nobody's paying attention, if you have not registered with Palm Beach County for notification of any change of title, then predators will come along and take that house from you. If you're not paying attention, if there's not somebody as a registered owner, as a registered recipient of that information, it's important to at least keep track of what the county records have to say.
And
It's interesting that she brought that up because one of our big supporters that we've talked to before, and they are doing this in Jacksonville, that's one of the biggest issues I think is always mentioned. And he will say that, Linda, those counselings are going to be very important because when it's not the person who is actually
hold the, yeah.
it's not the person who is actually living in the house, it's the person who actually can afford that house. So when we are doing counseling and post-ownership counseling, if there are 3, 4 areas that 5 that on 1/5 of the house, the counseling or the conversation that you're going to have, and that's what those conversations need to be had before someone passes. Because you're going to have to determine, even if that person doesn't live in the property, would that person be the one owning the property and paying the mortgage? Because otherwise that you do all this work and you're going to end up losing that property. So it's very important that we're going to have to do the counseling.
But I think I'd just add on to Leanne, like some of those conversations when families want to pass on their property to 4 of their children equally, it's like having those conversations, well, who wants that property? Do all 4 children want the property? Maybe there's someone that already has a home, they don't need it, so maybe who's going to live there? Can they afford, if there's a mortgage, can they apply for another mortgage to pay off the old mortgage? Those are important conversations to have.
Absolutely. Why family disagreements, it's important to know before the crisis starts. So when we had our conversation with our kids, I mean, if they ain't paying their mortgage, chances are they're not gonna pay the mortgage if I die. So you need to have those tough conversations. And you need to understand. And it helped us to understand so we could tell our attorneys how we want our documents to read. So it's important to have family conversation of disagreement because it lets the homeowner know, lets us know better how to make decisions. So don't be afraid of that.
Anyone else?
So Blake, what happens if you can't find an heir?
I'm going through that now. Basically, what the law says is that the petitioner, so in this sense, I'll just speak from a story. The 2 siblings have inherited this property. The one sibling, the sister doesn't know where her brother is. So what they have to do is that they have to make what's called a diligent search of that sibling. We have to basically file a petition with the court that says, we did all of these things. We sent them certified mail to their last home address. We got a return mail from them. We've called all their known relatives. We received nothing. And you basically have to show, document everything you've done to search for them. We're about to try to look at airsearch.com as a company that can search for different people and basically tell the court, look, we did everything possible. We're requesting to publish in a newspaper. So that's the last resort that you have to ask the court for is like, we're going to publish notice to that heir, which who reads, the local newspaper anymore, but that's still a thing. Same with one of the steps you have to take always is a notice to creditors, and then you wait 3 months from the time that you publish in a newspaper, but you have to do the same for an unknown heir. You'll publish in a newspaper. Once you do that, you file proof of that, and then the court will allow you to proceed. In this instance, it's not too difficult because this unknown heir is still going to have 50% of the home on title.
So how do you take title to that house when that other person can't be found?
Because it'll just be a court order that says title as transferred.
And how long does that
According
take?
to, well, I'm going through it now. I'll get back to you on what it is, but it's going to take, it takes a while. I mean, it's going to, they're probably, I can't remember what the time period is from the time you publish in the newspaper, what you have to wait, but like generally for creditors, you have to wait 3 months after that. And then, so I'm telling the client what they have, sent them a list. Here's the things I need you to do, and then provide documentation that you've done it. And then we're going to file this petition with the court, ask permission to publish in a newspaper, and then go through that process. So it's kind of up. A lot of the probate takes how on board are all the family members? How quickly can they sign consents and waivers of notice and be on board? If they're all on board, it can be quite fast. But if anyone's not on board, you can't find someone. You know, some nephew in another state, you don't know where they are, it can just sit there for a long time.
Which I guess goes back to Diane's point about the communication early, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do we do, yes. Oh, it does.
So, Mr. Blake, I wanted to ask you another question, and I had a concern because sometimes we have people in families where they may have a substance abuse issue. So actually, it was you really just worked with my heart when you said that the individual will still have ownership in the property. Just the paperwork will be finalized. But I wanted to ask a question. Just say this individual never surfaces, right? And let's say this other person passed away. Then what happens to that property? Say 10 years pass,
Okay.
and we've never been able to find this long lost relative. Now what is the condition instead of that property?
And are you saying that person, that missing person passed away?
No,
Or,
the
oh,
other person that was alive, the other sibling that you could reach, they passed away. So now you have this, the other person still cannot be found. So what happens to that property? Is it just the property of the state, or what happens?
honestly, I don't know. I don't know. Do you know, Takesha? I've never had that situation come up, fortunately. But I imagine if the person that died didn't do a ladybird deed or didn't, you'd have to go through probate for them. But yeah.
So another
Yep.
question. What if the others, just say you're leaving the house to 3 people, and just say one of them is in prison, they're incarcerated, would you still go through the paperwork and make sure they're still entitled to their share?
Yeah, and we've done that before. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, they have to be formally notified, and we as lawyers have to say, if there's not a will, according to Florida law, this is how the property will descend to their lineal descendants and their children and so on.
Okay, if
Mayor
there's
Lawson?
one last question, and then we'd like to ask Mayor Lawson to come up and say a few words.
No, I was gonna address, the concern is it would end up being a tax deed sale. It would then revert to not the state, but then it would be sold at a tax deed.
That's if no one paid the tax.
Right, if no one paid it, yeah.
If no one paid, right?
Yeah.
But essentially, banks, investors, there's no property that goes past 12 months, honestly, in Palm Beach County, that is not actually secured through tax deed sales. For the majority of the part, I would say, honestly, I've seen about 95% of all properties that go to a tax deed sale secured, because the interest that's paid on those tax deeds is gonna be substantially higher than what's actually being procured. So that would then convey over to whoever secured that property after 3 years of consistent taxes. So that's what would happen with that property. So that's in regards to conveying to whoever bought the tax deed.
Two more questions. After that, Natalie, and then we'll ask Mayor Lawson to come and say a few words.
I would really like to say thank you guys for giving all this information, because my husband, when his mom passed away, his older sister was taking care of her. And in the end, all of a sudden, her name was on the deed. So I don't know what she did to get her name on the deed. And so the property is not, the older sister doesn't live in the property. She rents from someone else.
And I thank you guys for providing all of this information because she's up in age. And so I'm like, so that I can let them get together because he has other siblings. And so they can get together and nobody talk about it. Just like you say, you need to talk about it. And so I'm here and I'm getting all this information so that I can take back to the other half of me so that he can know what he needs to do and where he needs to go because that was the house they were brought up. It was 7 of them brought up in the house. And therefore we have our stuff in order, what we own, but trying to get that in order because the sister, she's like, shut up. She calls him for little stuff, like to take her to the doctor and stuff like that because she has one son that, he doesn't need to be left nothing. But anyway, I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. I'm just telling the truth about that. So, it's just like, I'm glad that you guys provided this information so that I can take it back and I can let her know and he can, because they talk. My husband and his sister talk with other siblings. They have no to do with this, but we still need to bring the conversation up.
Right, and now you can connect them to legal aid as well. All right, let's finalize one last question with Miss Natalie, and then we'll have Mayor Lawson say a few words, and then we'll do a closing.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up kind of on what she started. So the money piece. So if let's say the house is passed to a child and there's still a mortgage on it, is it revalued? Is it they just take over the existing mortgage? Because I wasn't clear on what that looked like.
So if you continue to pay the mortgage as it is, nothing will happen. The lender has no incentive to take that property from you if you're paying. If you don't pay, then the lender is going to take the house.
And if it's multiple children, then how does that work?
Same thing. It doesn't. We don't care who makes our payment. We don't care.
Thank you.
If we can, first thing, if everybody here can just give a round of applause for community partners that put us together. Ms. Kelly, Ms. Jamie, Ms. Odessa, Ms. Linda, Ms. Tara, you guys have done an amazing job of giving the information to the residents. It was stated earlier that Ms. Leanne said that this county provides the most support and resources that she's seen anywhere in the state. It's because of communication, conversations, resident engagement, and access to the information. Because if we don't have this, that's what I've noticed in my listening tours. Since being appointed as mayor, the #1 issue across the board, over 60%, is communication, marketing, branding, advertising, and understanding what's happening in our community. Residents just need to be aware of what's happening, where's the information, and how they utilize and access the information. So Community Partners has been a staple in this community, providing that support and resources to our community. So thank you to our partners. Welcome to the city of Riviera Beach. We're honored to have you in our beautiful marina, and we're just honored to continue to be partners and supporters with you guys. As my councilwoman, Ms. Davis-Pinheiro stated earlier, the issues that we have in Riviera Beach is vital what Community Partners is addressing. We have those concerns here in this community, and some of the struggles that we deal with is prevalent to what they're talking about today. Access to heirs capital, having access to legal support within our community. Those are things that we are underutilized and underserved in Riviera Beach. So having this information and disseminating throughout, being shared, being understanding of sharing this out to the public, that's something that we need and we're appreciative of. So just on behalf of the city, I just thank you. Thank you for the support and efforts you've done, and we welcome you every time.
Thank you so much. And I have to say, Mayor Lawson is the first and the fastest to always make sure he's connecting residents to us, and we appreciate it. If he sees an issue, he calls, and we're on it. And so I love that partnership. We're very fortunate, so thank you. And thank you to the city of Riviera Beach. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up because, we have a little party coming next. Oh, one more question. I'm sorry.
So I'm councilperson for Sullivan Davis tenure, and I want to thank you all for your commitment to our community. But I want to shout out my former student, Roger Jackson. He actually reached out to me about getting this resource out to some of the elders in the community, and I was able to not only refer some other people, but my mom utilized the services. So I want to say thank you because it put us at peace with a lot of things. This is a stressful part of planning. You don't want to plan for death. You don't want to talk about it. Don't want to plan for, what's to come. But it is so important that we discuss these things with our family and that we have a prepared plan for times such as this. So thanks again, and we look forward to having you in our community again.
Thank you so much. So, this is a chatty group. I love it. Go, Miss Odessa.
I just have one more question.
We don't follow rules either, and I love it. Keep going.
What happens in the event that someone inherits a property that has a reverse mortgage?
Okay.
One of my colleagues texted that. I put it out there.
That mortgage has to be paid off. The minute the occupant is no longer a resident, that mortgage has to be paid off. And that's where we would go to community partners for a loan to pay it off. It has to be paid in full. The minute the resident, the mortgage holder leaves that house, be they go to assisted living, whatever, if they're not in that house, that mortgage is due and payable.
We're going through that issue right now. We have asked them to delay, saying we're going through probate, and so far they haven't filed a foreclosure in that. But yeah, that's we're trying to find. Fortunately, our clients approved for a loan to pay it off, but in this instance, the one problem is that I'll talk to you after. But she has two siblings that are also heirs that aren't in the home, and so she'd like to buy them out somehow. So. I just want to shout out Miss Takesha Miles. She's our fearless leader here at our Heirs Property Project for Legal Aid Society. Also, Roger Jackson, one of my best friends, and also works with Legal Aid Society. We probably went home to home in 200, when we got, thanks to Riviera Beach, we got our initial grant to Legal Aid Society. We probably went to 200 plus homes, knocking on doors, handing out flyers and door hangers. And then we have our Tamitha and Adrian in the back too, are part of our Heirs Property team. So
The hard work, right? Yeah. Also, I want to share a little bit. We at Community Partners of South Florida have been so fortunate for us to get involved in this work. Is not only the incredible people here, but we received a grant through JP Morgan Chase to really focus on this, and we're looking at a next opportunity for 2 more years. So it's just great to see the banks and the community and the government and the legal system and the community all come together to ensure that we're looking at creating legacy. It's not just about legacy, it's about justice. It's about what our community deserves. Our whole goal is to ensure every resident is thriving, and this is a way to create a community that's thriving. So again, thank you. We have gifts for each of you, and I also need to do a little, I'm so sorry to Carlos. Carlos got a promotion, and I guess I wasn't included in it, so I apologize. Mr. Deputy Director, congratulations. So I apologize. But truly, we have the best partners. I have to say that, we can't do this work alone. And so the fact that you guys are here today, but the fact that you're here every single day doing the work. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. So again, we have gifts for you all, and then we can continue some conversation if you guys don't mind staying for a few minutes. We'll block the door so you can't get out. Bring your individual questions up, and if you can also respect their time. And then about 5:30, I think do we have stuff in the hallway as well, Linda? Do we have, it's in the other room. So we'll just have a little, mingle, chit chat, network, all that good stuff. And then around 5:30, we'll open up the doors. The whole room will move into the reception. So.
And if we could just chit chat in the hallway, because the amazing ambassadors of Riviera Beach are going to take down this wall so our reception area can come into this side too. So we will commence with gifts.
Yes. And before you all leave, thank you all for coming with such incredible questions. We appreciate you being here. It was a wonderful event and a great way to celebrate NeighborWorks Week. So thank you all. Okay. You want to do
I'm actually, I work at the corporate headquarters in Miami Lakes.
Okay, I was gonna
Appreciate you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Man, thank you so much.
Hey, for a fellow Hokie, I would do anything.
Oh, I put it in. I'm like losing your cards. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Mayor Lawson.
Yes, we're
I
gonna
don't know if you remember me.
I do, of course I remember.
You do?
Yes.
Racial Equity
Yes,
Institute.
Equity Institute.
Yeah, that's where we first met. It's
Yeah, we
awesome.
sat there, we were at the tables together. We were
I
doing
know.
work together. How have you been?
Good,
That was
good.
years ago. You know, Lee and Tate Brown when actually told me to take that course, and I remember meeting you through that one. How have you
Yeah, I
been?
went through Barbara Cheeves. That's how
Yes,
I got
yes,
it.
yes, yes.
I had no idea. It changed my life. I just started working at Legal Aid at that time.
Listen, the work that you guys are doing is phenomenal. Whatever support.
No, thank you. You guys were our first support.
You guys, we utilize your services so much in our community. So whatever support you guys need, or if there's any marketing, advertising partnerships, reach out directly to us.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, good to see you. And congrats again. Hi. Howard Blake. Yeah.
If you have a person on the deed and they pass away,
A what?
person on the deed or on the title, and they pass away, they have there's no formal.
Oh, yeah. Okay, one second.